Annotations. A note from the narrator. Throughout the book, I have incorporated particular annotations originally indicated in footnotes into the main body of the text, to save the listener from having to jump between audio chapters. The following section contains the remainder of the annotations not so far heard. Arab diffusion in Europe. The Western tradition of learning is as much a Saracen tradition as anything else. If by Saracen we mean the concentration point in Spain, Sicily, and elsewhere of the many stimuli which make up a great part of what is considered to be an outgrowth of Greek and Latin culture. The period during which the literary sceptre was held by France coincided with the growth and high development of the Arabist school of Montpellier, which came under the influence of the Arabized Jews of Spain. Montpellier, owing to its geographical relation to Andalusia on one hand, and Sicily and the Italian peninsula on the other, drew numbers of students from the Latin West, who, after having imbibed at the Arabized sources available at that time, once more scattered themselves in Europe, thus permeating the whole fabric of medieval culture with the gloss of Arabian erudition. The subsequent teaching of the alumni of Montpellier, who exercised a dominating influence over medical literature on the continent and in England, is one of the outstanding historical facts of the Middle Ages. The newly developing varieties of Romance, combined with the steady inpour of Arabic works from southern Spain, which were in the main rendered into indifferent Latin, rendered both the liquid languages and sciences, including medicine, particularly susceptible to Arabian influences. Dr. D. Campbell, Arabian Medicine, Book 1, London, 1926, pages 196 to 97. Ascent. There are 4 major conditions of man. All mankind is in one of these. In accordance with these conditions, the individual has to have his progress planned. He will behave in a different way, may appear a different person, will take decisions according to the condition and the degree of that condition which he has attained. Not everyone reaches every stage of every condition, according to Sufi doctrine. The difference in Sufi formulation will depend upon the existence of conditions of this kind, their completeness, and their relationship with all humanity. Shah Muhammad Gwath, in Secrets of the Naqshbandi Path, expresses the conditions in religious terms. 1. Humanity, Nasut, the ordinary condition. 2. On the path, Tariqa, equated with angels in the cosmic sense. 3. Force, equated with what is called power, Jabarut, or real capacity. 4. Absorption, Lahut, referring to the condition of divinity in another sphere. The individual Sufi is concerned with passing from one stage of conditions to another. The teacher is responsible for making this possible through the training which he offers. The guide is responsible for relating the individual progress to that of the total needs of humanity. Innumerable techniques and activities of the Sufis ultimately relate to the application of this concept. Baraka. Root and derivation, Arabic. Ba'akba, to stand firm, dwell in. Bakala, to sit down. Barakla, congratulate, Syrian dialect. Barak Allah, to bless. Tabarak, to be exalted. Tabarakba, to bode well of. Barakat, blessing, abundance. Berkat, pool, tank, puddle. Barik, happy, fresh dates with cream. Barak, miller. Mubarak, blessed. Barak, make kneel down, bend the knees. The Italian Carbonari, originally a mystical fraternity, made use of the coincidence between the Arabic baraka and the Italian baracca. The latter means a covering without walls, a barrack, storehouse, undertaking, enterprise. They used it as the term for the lodge. In July 1957, Mr. John Hamilton published in the Hibbert Journal a paper in which he proposed that the word baraka be used in English to denote certain qualities in people or objects, such as the virtue emanated by Jesus and other great healers. Professor Robert Graves independently advocated the same course in an important lecture in America. The word is familiar to many who have lived in the East, but has a meaning wider than its usual employment. President de Gaulle of France, in saying, "I have baraka," used it in the sense of personal invulnerability, made necessary because of a sense of the need to complete a mission or function. Baddiel. Mirza Abdul Qadeer Baddiel, who lived at the time of the Indian Emperor Aurangzeb, is greatly admired as a Sufi teacher in India and Central Asia. A collection of 31,000 of his extraordinarily originally constructed poems was published by a committee of savants in Afghanistan in 1962. Black and wise. The idiomatic usage of the word black in Europe to denote something unpleasant has obscured its special technical usage during the Middle Ages. Reference may be made to the use of the idea of dark, occult, for something hidden may form a bridge toward re-establishing the sense of this concept in its connection with hidden wisdom, and also, by extension, with leadership. The Kaaba, the cubic temple, the Holy of Holies, in Mecca, is draped in black, esoterically interpreted as a play upon words of the FHM sound in Arabic, alternatively meaning black or wise, understanding. The word Syed, prince, is connected with another root for black, the SWD root. The original banner of the Prophet Muhammad was black, collectively standing for wisdom, lordship. The association of the ideas is not, of course, preserved in the translation of the Sufi phrase, "in the darkness, the path," da tariki tarikat. The black and white checker effect, light, understanding, comes from darkness, said to have been handed down to the Sufis from the very greatest antiquity, symbolizes this duality. In many ways, Sufi meetings ritualistically perpetuate the alternation of light and darkness, of black and white. One such method is to lay cloth of alternate black and white on the floor of the meeting place. Another is to alternately kindle and extinguish a lamp. Classical teachers. There are 3 generations or waves of teachership during the classical period. All Sufis believe themselves to be recipients of the baraka accumulated by these teachers, who are thus their spiritual ancestors. In the first generation, Abu Bakr, Umar, Ali, Bilal, Ibn Riyah, Abu Abdullah, Salman the Persian, the 7 great ones. In the second generation, Uwais al-Qani, Hiran ibn Hayya, Hassan al-Basri, the guides or crowns. In the third generation, Habib Ajami, Malik ibn Dinar, Imam Abu Hanifa, Daud of Tai, Dhulnun the Egyptian, Ibrahim ibn Adam, Abu Yazid, Sari el-Sakti, Abu Hafs, Maruf Kaki, Junaid, the 11 sheikhly transmitters. These are the masters who concentrated the teachings and passed them on in such a manner as to make possible the school developments which later appeared as dervish orders. Death and rebirth. The theme that man must die before he dies, Muhammad, or that he must be born again in his present life, is to be found in very many forms of initiatory observance. In almost all cases, however, the message is taken symbolically, or is commemorated by a mere mime or ritual. The Sufis, believing that they preserve the original sense of this teaching, mark the three main grades of initiation with a death process. In this, the candidate has to pass through certain specific experiences, technically termed deaths. The actual initiation ceremony merely commemorates this happening and does not simply dramatize it as a symbol. The three deaths are 1. The white death, 2. The green death, 3. The black death. Leading up to the spiritual experiences referred to as deaths are a series of psychological and other exercises which include three outstanding factors. 1. Abstinence and control of physical functions. 2. Poverty, including independence from material things. 3. Emotional liberation through such exercises as overcoming avoidable obstacles and playing a part in order to observe the reactions of others. Discipleship under a master follows a special pattern in which the seeker is given opportunities for exercising his consciousness of these three stages. Since Sufism uses the normal organization of the world as a training ground, the three deaths always involve specific enterprises carried out in human society, leading to the spiritual experiences marked by the three deaths and successive rebirth, or transformation, which results from them. Elements of Sufism. The 10 elements of the Sufis refer to the framework of individual effort within which the seeker gains the potential to become awake or alive in the greater dimensions which lie outside familiar experience. El-Farisi has listed them thus. 1. Separation of unification. 2. Perception of audition. 3. Companionship and association. 4. Correct preference. 5. Surrender of choice. 6. The rapid acquisition of a certain state. 7. Penetration of thought, self-examination. 8. Travelling and movement. 9. Surrender of earnings. 10. Lack of acquisition or covetousness. Sufi exercises and training are based on these 10 elements. In accordance with the need of the disciple, the teacher will choose for him programs of study and action which give him the opportunity of exercising functions summarized by these elements. These factors are therefore the basis of preparing the individual for the development which he could not otherwise sustain or perceive, let alone attain. Jami. Mullah Nuruddin Abdurrahman Jami, literally Master Light of Faith, Servant of the Merciful of Jam, was born in Khorasan in 1414 and died in Herat in 1492. Jami was spiritualized by the glance of the great master Muhammad Parsa, who passed through his birthplace when the poet was a small boy, according to his own belief. He was a teacher of the Naqshbandi order. His Sufi teachings are sometimes displayed, sometimes concealed, in his extraordinary poetical and other works. Among these are the romances of Salaman and Abdul and the epic of Joseph and Zuleika, allegorical tales which are among the greatest pieces of Persian literature ever written. His Abode of Spring contains the most important initiatory material. Jami was a great traveller, theologian, hagiographer, grammarian, and prosodist, as well as a musical theorist. His intellectual powers were such that after studying under the master Ali of Samarkand, he was soon recognized by the great Dr. Room as superior to him. Addressing a great assembly, he said, "Since the building of this city, none equal in mind and the use of it to this youth Jami has ever crossed the Oxus to Samarkand." Jami chose his place name as a pseudonym because it decodes to the numbers 54, re-encodable to the letters ND. This combination of letters in Arabic stands for a group of ideas: idol, opponent, running, compounded perfume, all Sufi poetic concepts connected with the state or movement of the Sufi. Lataif. The activation of the special organs of perception, or lataif, is a part of Sufi methodology analogous to, and often confused with, the chakra system of the yogis. There are important differences. In yoga, the chakras or padmas are conceived as physically located centers in the body, linked by invisible nerves or channels. Yogis generally do not know that these centers are merely concentration points, convenient formulations whose activation is a part of a theoretical working hypothesis. Both Sufism and Christianity of an esoteric sort preserve a similar theory, combining it with certain exercises. The succession of colours seen by the alchemist in the Western literature can be seen as referring to concentration upon certain physical localizations, if we compare it with the Sufi literature on exercises. This is surprisingly easily demonstrated, though it seems that nobody in the West has noticed the connection. In Sufism, the lataif are located thus: mind, qalb, color yellow, location left side of the body; spirit, ruh, color red, location right side of the body; consciousness, sir, color white, location solar plexus; intuition, khafi, color black, location forehead; deep perception of consciousness, ikhfa, color green, location center of chest. In Western alchemy, the succession of colors manifested is of very great importance. Among the Christian alchemists, the succession black, white, yellow, red is very common. It will at once be noted that this succession, transposed into physical equivalents, forms the sign of the cross. The alchemical exercises therefore aim at activating colors, locations, the lataif, in the form of crossing oneself. This is an adaptation of the Sufi method, which is thus, in order of activation: yellow, red, white, black, green. In alchemy, again, the succession is sometimes given as black, subsidiary grey, which is the partial development of the black faculty, the forehead; white, solar plexus, the second point of the sign of the cross; green, a Sufi alternative for the right side of the chest; citrine, left side of the chest, heart. Red, right side of the chest. Sometimes, at the second stage, the peacock, or variegated colours, appears in the consciousness. This sign, considered important to the alchemists, is known by the Sufis as a special condition, not invariable, which occurs in the mind when the consciousness is flooded by changing colours or photisms. It is a stage before stabilization of the consciousness, and can in some ways be compared to colour illusions produced by hallucinogens. The Sufis wear clothing, often turbans, of the colour corresponding to their development in this special system. Literary students of alchemy are left fumbling with a mystery which is thus not complicated, if understood in its real meaning. Miramolin. The medieval rendering of the Arab title Emir el-Mominin, Commander of the Faithful, Caliph of Spain and Africa, was Miramolin, an attempt to reproduce the sound of the original words. Vulgarly, looked at from the point of view of Spanish, the word sounds as if it was composed of the words to look, mira, and a mill, molino. Transposing this idea of mill into Arabic, as it was explained to me by the Moorish descendant of Spanish Arabs expelled in the 1490s, we find the word rahi. What else does rahi mean in Arabic? Rahi, mill, the thick of a fight, chief of a tribe, troop of camels. Mirat means stores, wheat. The mill which Quixote attacked was, by linguistic analogy and coincidence, a mill, but it also stood for the thick of a fight, chief of a tribe, etc. It is impossible to transpose the associations into English, because the humour depends upon the coincidence of sounds. Since Arabic is not now widely known in Spain, this part of the Spanish-Arabic literary interchange cannot take place any longer, and remains only with a few people in Morocco. The Miramolin of Africa, representing the fanatical element of Islam, was unpopular, to say the least, among the Spanish Arabs and the Sufis. Mysterious festivals. The mysterious witch festivals were held on the 2nd of February, 1st of May, 1st of August, and 1st of November. They do not accord with the seasons nor the solstices as far as most commentators can make out. It has therefore been concluded that they must be based upon some ancient calendar of animal breeding. These are, in fact, the dates which are celebrated by the Anisa and other Arabs, heralding the changes of season observed in the Persian Gulf area and still observed there. They correspond exactly with spring, Rabi, summer, Saif, autumn, Kharif, winter, Shita. The witch habit of counterclockwise circumambulation, generally considered to be an evil reversal of normal religious clockwise movement, is similar to the Islamic habit of walking around the Kaaba. The Sufis and other Muslims are the only religious group which conducts their worship by means of a widdershins rotation. Naqshbandi. One of the most widespread of the Sufi orders. The name is literally painters, on the analogy of the corporations or guilds of the early classical Sufis, such as the builders. The order has an inner and an overt branch. Many Persian poets use the word naqsh, diagram, painting, map, and so on, to denote a relationship between these Sufis and the whole plan of human development, which Sufism is believed to be aiding. Rumi uses the word NQSH long before the supposed founder of the order, Bahuddin Naqshband, taught in Bukhara. He says, "I am a form-making engraver, naqash. Each instant I shape an idol." Divan. Khayyam, even earlier, uses the same imagery. "This circle of the world is like a ring. Assuredly we are the seal, NQSH, on its bezel." The Naqshbandi trace their spiritual pedigree to Muhammad through most of the early classical teachers. The order considers itself a Sufi influence, only partly expressed in its outward form as a dervish school of austere appearance, helping to maintain the cultural identity of the environment. It was powerful in Turkey until the Republican Revolution, and dominated both the Ottoman and Mughal courts from time to time. The temporary character of Sufi schools, which causes their reshaping and difference in appearance in various fields, is referred to by Rumi when he says, "I am not of water or fire, nor of the head-killing wind. I am not of the impressed, manukish clay. I have laughed at all of them." Divan. Objectives of Sufism. Dazzled by the outward mystery of Eastern life, or involved in the intricacies of literature soaked in theological and historical allegory, most Western students of the Sufis, particularly the academicians, seem to pause at an earlier stage of experience of Sufi intention than would profit them. A recent 1962 traveller in North Africa, who spent some time with Sufis, brings back from Tunisia a sense of objective which may sound strange to the traditional scholar. The disciples had to carry out memorizing and meditative exercises, developing powers of concentration and reflection. The others, it seems, were keeping up a sort of training of which thought and work, as well as exercises like the dhikr, all formed a part. After a few days, the air of mystery and strangeness which I had felt was replaced by a sensation that, however unfamiliar these practices might seem to the outsider, their practitioners did not regard them as supernatural, as we might use the term. As Sheikh Arif once said, "We are doing something which is natural, which is the result of research and practice into the future development of mankind. We are producing a new man, and we do it for no material gain." This, then, is their attitude. O. M. Burke, Tunisian Caravan, Blackwood's Magazine, number 1756, volume 291, February 1962, page 135. Peacock Angel Cult. The Yazidis, reputed devil worshippers of Iraq, are a secret cult whose symbolism, the peacock and the black snake, have baffled students for centuries. There is, however, no need for this difficulty, given the knowledge that the group was founded by a famous Sufi, and given that we know how Sufic poetic analogy works. Like the Sufi builders, travellers, or coalmen, the Yazidis were originally a community of Sufis, and their rituals are centered around the use of standard and familiar Sufi symbolism. Malak Taus, which stands for peacock angel, merely means Malak, homonym of Malik, king, the traditional word for a Sufi, and Taus, peacock, which stands here for its homophone Taus, verdant land. When it is noted that Malak, angel, is used in Ghazali's sense of angels are the higher faculties in man, it can be seen that the supposed idol of the Yazidis is merely an allegory of two Sufi watchwords, the expansion of the land, the mind, through the higher faculties. Both of these words are in Sufic usage outside of the Yazidi cult. The Yazidis are divided into grades which use Sufi initiatory titles such as Pir elder, fakir, poor one, baba, chief. Lady Drower, who studied the peacock people of Iraq at close range, says of the founder of the group, Sheikh Adi ibn Musafir, son of the traveller, a Sufi cognomen, "Nothing that is known about him speaks of anything but orthodoxy, but he was a Sufi, and the secret doctrines of Sufism have always been suspected of pantheism, and the Sufi sects of cherishing ancient faiths." Peacock Angel, London 1941, page 152. In addition to the peacock emblem, the Yazidis use the figure of a snake, which they blacken with soot. This blackening is symbolic of the word fehm, charcoal or carbon. The snake itself, far from being a symbol of evil or ancient skin-sloughing regeneration law, as some would believe, is chosen for the same reasons as the peacock. In Arabic, snake is hayat. This is a near rhyme for another word, hayat, life, which uses the same Arabic letters. The meaning of the black snake is therefore wisdom of life. As in the case of other Sufic organizations, the Yazidi system has traveled far beyond its cultural context and become in places a mere mime. A thriving branch of the cult, which does in fact appear to revere an angelic peacock, is reported as existing in London in 1962. A. Darul, Secret Societies, London 1962. It is this deterioration of symbology which is reflected in many strange associations in the West. The real developmental intention has become subservient to the form, which, in turn, is used to produce communal emotion, replacing inner experience. Kutub. This is the reputed invisible head of all the Sufis. The word literally means the magnetic pole, pivot, pole star, chief. Transposed into figures, it totals 111, the thrice-repeated unity, the threefold unity, the threefold affirmation of truth, which is a unity. If this is split up into 110 and substituted, we get the letters Q, Y, and A. The word QYAA, spelled from these letters, means to be vacant, voided. It is the vacant, voided, purged house into which the baraka descends, the human consciousness. Raymond Lully. I am indebted to Mr. Robert Pring Mill of Oxford for a textual quotation from Lully's Blanquerna, in which he states that he has adopted devotional methodology from the Sufis, called by him religious men among the Saracens. Communication dated June 26, 1962, quoting the Els Nostres Classics edition of Lully's El de Evast e Blanquerna, Volume 3, pages 10 and following. Remembering. The word dhikr, pronounced in non-Arab countries as zikr, refers to certain exercises carried out from the beginning of dervishhood. Basically, the word means remembrance, and the sense is of remembering, commemorating, invocation. Remembering is now also defined as the basic term for the religious activity of dervishes. The first stage is remembering oneself, after which the function shifts to one of harmony with the greater consciousness. The disciple has to remember or recognize himself in various ways, shedding this exercise in this form very early, or it becomes an undesirable cause. Some imitators of Sufism, seeking Sufi assemblies, have copied this technique. the great Hakim Sanai warns against too much remembering, pointing out that it is only used at the early stage. Zikr juz da rahi mujahid nist, zikr da majlisi mushahid nist. Remembering exists not except in the way of struggle. Remembering repetition is not to be found in the assembly of experience, the walled garden of truth. Rose, Rosicrucian, Rosary. The Christians adopted the rosary from the Saracens. In so doing, they translated the word al-Wadia, literally the reciter, by another word, almost the same in the original sound, a word standing for rosa or rosary. The full Arabic term for the rosary is el-Mizbat el-Wirdiat, the praiser of the reciter or of the drawing near. This term, WRD, is a special technical term for the special exercises of the Sufis or dervishes. The Catholic rendering into Latin is not so much a mistranslation as an adoption of the Sufi poetic, or almost heraldic, method of using a similar word to create a picture. Hence the word wird, dervish exercise, was used by the Sufis poetically as ward, rose. A similar development took place with the term Rosicrucian. This is a direct translation of the root WRD plus the word for cross in Arabic, SLB. In its original meaning, the phrase means WRD, exercise, plus SLB, to extract the marrow. Hence, it is only incidentally that SLB, which also means cross, occurs in the phrase Rosicrucian. Taking advantage of this coincidence or poetic juxtaposition, the Sufis do, however, say, "We have the marrow of the cross, while the Christians only have the crucifix," and similar phrases. This loses its meaning in translation. A whole dervish order, that of Abdul Qadeer el-Jilani, is formed around the idea of rose in this initiatory sense, and its founder is called the Rose of Baghdad. Ignorance of this background is responsible for much useless speculation about such entities as the Rosicrucians, who merely repeated in their claims the possession of the ancient teaching, which is contained in the parallel development called alchemy, and which was also announced by Friar Bacon, himself claimed as a Rosicrucian and alchemist and illuminate. The origins of all these societies in Sufism is the answer to the question as to which of them did Bacon belong, and what the secret doctrine really was. Much other Rosicrucian symbolism is Sufic. Martin Luther used the rose, cross, and ring, Sufic halka group, in his emblem. This must have been supplied to him by an initiate Sufi. The sacred language. Classical Arabic is that version of Arabic which was used by the Qurayshite tribe, hereditary guardians of the Temple of Mecca, and to which Muhammad belonged. Long before Arabic became considered a holy tongue because it is the vehicle of the Quran, it was the speech of the sacerdotal class of Mecca, a sanctuary whose religious history legend starts with Adam and Eve. Arabic, most precise and primitive of the Semitic languages, shows signs of being originally a constructed language. It is built up upon mathematical principles, a phenomenon not paralleled by any other language. Sufic analysis of its basic concept groupings shows that especially initiatory or religious, as well as psychological ideas, are collectively associated around a stem in seemingly logical and deliberate fashion, which could hardly be fortuitous. Arabic is the nearest that is available to a parent Semitic language, because philologically it is millennia more archaic than, for instance, Hebrew. For this reason, Hebrew grammar is based upon an analysis of Arabic, by a study of which the original meanings of Hebrew words, perverted through long literary usage, were reclaimed by Hebrew scholars. Saki. The cupbearer, to whom so many Sufi verses are addressed, is generally considered by literary critics to be an imaginary figure. In Sufi practice, however, poems which are addressed to a Saki, or in which a Saki appears, may refer to an individual who plays an illustrative part in the proceedings, because a poem may not stand on its own under all circumstances. When intended to fulfill a certain function, an actual Saki may be present. Outside of Sufi activity, there are few notices of the presence of a Saki. Sirajuddin Ali refers to a Sufi meeting of this kind, where he reports a dialogue between a Saki and a Sufi master, Laikur. In the Afghan town of Ghazna, there was a madman called Laikur, who used to say the most outrageous things, the Sufi method of attracting attention to something in order to put a point. One day, toward the middle of the 12th century, the poet Sanai was walking to the court of Sultan Ibrahim, scourge of the Hindus, to present him with a eulogistic poem on the eve of another expedition into infidel India. Sanai heard singing from a garden. As he listened, he heard the madman calling the Saki to bring wine for a toast to the blinding of Sultan Ibrahim. The Saki objected to the toast. Was Ibrahim not a great monarch? He is blind, said the madman, to quit this wonderful city to engage upon a useless task, especially when he is needed here. The next toast was to Sanai, the eavesdropper himself, and to his blindness. The Saki again said that this must be wrong, for Sanai was an excellent poet, a learned man. Sanai, said the madman, has no idea why he was created. When his actions are asked, he will produce only eulogies of kings. This is what he has done during this life of his. This account of the conversion of Sanai to Sufism is, of course, a report of a dialogue of a Sufic nature, presented in a formalized fashion. Since the Saki's words are never included in the written form of the poems, we have no recorded dialogue form commemorating such encounters, and as far as the ordinary literary man is concerned, they do not exist. Saracen Western contacts. The interchange between Western sovereigns and the infidel Saracens of various brands was extraordinarily close during the whole period of nominal war between the two power groups. Charlemagne, the hero of Christendom, fought as an ally with a Muslim sovereign. Abdurrahman II of Spain, 821 to 852, sent an ambassador, Yahya the Gazelle, to a Norman king. Richard the Lion-Hearted, Arabic Kalb el-Nimr, both Sufi initiatory words, is said to have proposed that his sister should marry the brother of Saladin. She was herself the widow of the king of Sicily, whose rulers were using Sufi phrases in heraldic devices. The Lion-Hearted's brother, John, excommunicated 1209, sent an embassy from England to the Spanish-Moroccan commander of the faithful, offering to embrace Islam. Richard himself married, in 1191, Berengaria of Navarre, whose brother, Sancho the Strong, was a close ally of the Spanish Arabs. John was, in 1211, preparing to give military support to the Albigensians, who were undoubtedly saturated with Sufic culture. Isabella of Castile was married to Edmund of York. She was descended from Mohammed II of Seville. The Sufi influence which came from Spain at this time includes Morris dancing. John of Gaunt, who probably brought the dancers, was a patron of Chaucer, who used Sufi materials. Chaucer's wife Philippa was probably Gaunt's third wife, whom Gaunt married in 1396. The lords of Aragon were directly descended from the Muslim kings of Granada. There are said to be 50,000 English descendants of the Beni Umayya today from the line of Pedro the Cruel. Thomas à Becket, 1119 to 1170, Chancellor and Archbishop of Canterbury, whose doings and death are linked with speculation as to his spiritual commitment and have given rise to numerous theories, is said to have had a Saracen mother. Shams el-Doha is the Arabic name of an English or Scottish princess who was married to the Moroccan sovereign Abu al-Hassan, 1330 to 1380, the Myrinid. Both have tombs in the ruins of Shilla near Rabat. The Greek emperor John Cantacuzenus gave his daughter to the Turkish sovereign Orhan in 1346. Orhan organized the Janissaries, an elite military organization owing allegiance to the Sufi teacher Haji Bektash. From the Islamic point of view, there is no possibility of Muslim women being offered to unbelievers, and that such marriages took place or were mooted is confirmation of the Eastern tradition that there was an initiatory understanding between the Muslims of the time and the nominal Christians with whose families they were thus closely allied. Both current prudence and subsequent religious propaganda have effaced public acknowledgement of this. Spirit and substance. According to Sufism, what is generally referred to in religious terminology as the spirit, el-ruh, is a substance with physical characteristics, a subtle body, jism-i-latif. This substance, as conceived, is not considered to be eternal. It existed before the corporealization of man, Ujwiri, Revelation of the Veiled. After physical death, the substantial spirit continues to exist in one of 10 forms, each corresponding to the formation which it has attained during ordinary life. There are 10 stages in this sense, the first being that of the sincere, the 10th being that of the Sufi who has been transformed in nature by his earthly development. The ruh is at times visible. The Sufi teacher. Within mankind is a treasure, and this can be found only by looking for it. The treasure is, as it were, inside a house, fixed thinking patterns, which has to be broken down before it can be found. In his Elephant in the Dark house, Rumi teaches that if there had been a light in the house, multiplicity would be seen to be in fact unity. Man sees only pieces of things because his mind is fixed in a pattern designed to see things piecemeal. A function of the teacher is to establish this fact to the disciple. Rumi has made this a subject of a poem, Mathnavi, Book 4, Winfield's translation. Destroy your house, and with the treasure hidden in it you will be able to build thousands of houses. The treasure lies under it. There is no help for it. Hesitate not to pull it down. Do not tarry. That prize is the wages for destroying the house. Man gets nothing he has not worked for. And then you will bite your finger, saying, Alas, that bright moon was hidden under a cloud. I did not do what they told me for my good. Now house and treasure are lost, and my hand is empty. Templars. That the Templars were thinking in terms of the Sufi and not the Solomonic temple in Jerusalem and its building is strongly suggested by one important fact. Temple churches which they erected, such as one in London, were modelled upon the temple as found by the Crusaders, not upon any earlier building. This temple was none other than the octagonal Dome of the Rock, built in the 7th century on a Sufi mathematical design and restored in 913. The Sufi legend of the building of the temple accords with the alleged Masonic version. As an example, we may note that the Solomon of the Sufi builders' legend is not King Solomon, but the Sufi King Maruf Kaki, died 815, disciple of David, Daud of Tai, died 781, and hence by extension considered the son of David, and referred to cryptically as Solomon, who was the son of David. The great murder commemorated by the Sufi builders is not that of the person supposed by Masonic tradition to have been killed. The martyr of the Sufi builders is Mansur el-Hallaj, 858–922, juridicially murdered because of the Sufi secret, which he spoke in a manner which could not be understood, and was thus dismembered as a heretic. The pillars of the temple are not physical ones, but follow the Arabic custom of calling an individual, or elder, a pillar. One of the Sufi pillars is Abul Faiz, sometimes called Abu Az. He is the great-grandfather, third in teaching succession, of David, Maruf Kaki, and is none other than Thuban Abul Faiz Del Nun the Egyptian, founder of the Malamati order of Sufis, whose similarity to Freemasonry has often been pointed out. He died in 860 AD, and is also known as the king and possessor of the Egyptian secrets. Transliteration. There is no standard European or American transliteration of Arabic or Persian. Various attempts at reproducing the pronunciation by means of Latin letters have failed. When adaptations have been made to the Latin alphabet, the result has been that those who already know the Arabic letter are able to write the letter in Arabic upon seeing the Latin modified letter. Those who cannot write Arabic are no better off, because the modified letter does not help them in pronunciation, and there is no value in their knowing anything about differentiation of letters if they cannot write or read them. There is no possibility of applying phonetic rules to Arabic because certain sounds are only learned by ear and made possible of utterance by practice. For the purposes of this book, the approximations of spelling used in Latinized words are as useful to the ordinary reader as any artificial system. Arabs, Persians, and Hindustani speakers are able to know which letter to use in writing a word by their knowledge of the language and of its orthography. Orientalists of other origins have for many years attempted to substitute for this knowledge cumbersome transliterations, whose main function has, in the event, been to cause them to rely upon Latinization instead of their memories. This is opposed to the practice of the languages with which they have to deal. Any literate child in a country using the Arabic script knows how the word Abdus Samad is spelled. An equal competence should be expected from a foreign scholastic. Failing this, the approximation in ordinary Latin letters should suffice him. There is no middle way, although one is still being sought.